Shock Monkey Radio is created by adults for entertainment purposes. The views and opinions expressed here do not reflect the sponsors or FXPG Public Radio. For additional information, refer to the U.S. Bill of Rights. Stand warned. Okay, you ever play a game called Wing Commander? Privateer. I hated the Wing Commander series. All right, I preferred X-wing. I thought X-wing was the shit, and Tie Fighter was even better because I like the Empire more than the. I'm a company man. Sorry. Um, I like the Empire more, but I like Tie Fighter and I liked X-wing, and I thought those were superior space combat games. But Wing Commander came out with a bunch of like little different ones. There was like one called Wing Commander Academy where you could design missions. I did have that one, and there was another one called Wing Commander Privateer, which was by far one of my favoriteest games growing up when I was like 16, 17, 18 years old. Um, the early 90s, and you had to use your expanded memory. You had to get the right amount of expanded memory to get the auto exec back that file. You remember the auto exec back? You probably don't. EK is nodding. Yeah, I remember that. Config.sys. Yeah, what a pain in the ass. Agreed. And so in those days, it's like there's this game called Wing Commander Privateer. And it was by far my favorite because there was never really any kind of video game that was like a Han Solo game where the Han Solo is like you have your own ship, maybe a crew, but in this game you didn't have a crew. You have your own ship and you could grab commodities and like sell them somewhere else. Different systems and so forth. You could take mercenary missions. You could take merchant missions. They want you to like take this tungsten, you know, or this iron, to Perry naval base. I remember these places. We need you to take 50. No, we need you to take 20 prefab buildings to New Constantinople, which you know which was awesome, and I love that aspect of the game because it wasn't a linear plot line like Wing Commander games where you like do mission after mission after mission after mission, and it's all real linear and stuff like that. But in Wing Commander Privateer, you could choose like which systems you went to and like where you went to go, and sometimes you'd get so broke you can't even leave the system. It was like, I don't even gas. Or it was like, or you're so damaged you can't repair it, and that every time you leave, there's a Kilrathi patrol out there fucking you up, and you're just I gotta resave my save game and see what I could do. Can I sell anything? I'm gonna switch down to lasers. You downgrading your weapon systems, downloading your electronic countermeasures, so that you can afford repairs, so you can get to the next planet and sell the the 20 brilliant, which was a drug that you could a commodity. They would have drugs as commodities. They would have pornography as commodities, even slaves as commodities in this game. Where you and if you had illicit cargo and you went past a militia patrol, they could scan you and they see what your cargo is. And if you have something that's illegal, unless you're going to a pirate base, if you have something that's illegal, they'll scan you and say, oh, then they'll start attacking you because they don't want any contraband on their world. Now, here's the thing. I wish I was just like born 200 years in the future, to the point where there are colonies on different planets and different asteroids or moons around the solar system. We could have a colony in the next couple hundred years, 200 years or so. We could have a colony on the moon where we'd launch a large majority of our missions from because of the lower gravity and it'd take less fuel. The issue is getting fuel up there, and I think the idea is to terraform the moon, extract the oxygen O3, I think that's up there, then you can use that as fuel because that's what we use right now. It's like solid oxygen, I believe. I don't know. Do I look like a mad scientist? Do I think I looked at how to lay on hands of people? Nope, not me. And so they'll get to a point where there's a moon colony, a Mars colony. There could be little tiny colonies on different asteroids, mining ore and like interesting new metals that we're probably going to find, expanding the periodic table. That'd be awesome. That would be awesome. And there could be a time where uh, private commercial merchants could go and like I have my own ship and I'm going to run material to asteroid B 58B. You know, there could come a time like that. Now I was thinking is like what kind of commodities would become valuable in this kind of world where where you guys something going on. People on the moon colony, they can't stay there very long because they start getting way too tall and they can't fit in the buildings anymore, and they got to go like back to Earth and stuff like that. And they're having some trouble, getting some getting the plants growing. I mean, I know we can synthesize meat right now, and we could probably do that in the future. So probably foodstuffs wouldn't be an issue. But how long until we are able to actually like create a fruit, like a fully grown fruit? So I think that fruit would be very, very valuable when it comes to these colonies and stuff like that. You show up with like a crate of apples or peaches. I bet peaches would be the shit. It's like you go to the peaches, and also it's like say you have like 50 storage units in your cargo hold. It's like you got like 50 peaches, and the rest is earth soil. You know, you bring a bunch of earth soil up there, and it's like now you got peach pits and soil. Boom. And think about these commodities. You can make a serious amount of money if you knew what you're doing, if you knew what you're trading. Think about this. There could be a point where you are bringing a shipload full of worms, of earthworms, to Mars. Why? Think about what earthworms do to soil. When they get there, would they be called Mars worms? What do you think? They'd be called Mars worms? Okay. So you get these worms there, and they can help aerate the soil and secrete their mucus or whatever that's good for plants or whatever like that. I bet there could be some guy that could call him the Worm King. It's like, welcome to Worm King Inc. I made a fortune on bringing earthworms to Mars. Now I got a like 50% stake in the Martian Soil Farm Collective. It could happen one day. It could happen one day. Or you can get like a shipment of New York strip steaks. Could be shipped out there, and the rest of your cargo, you got a bunch of New York strip steaks, and the rest New York strip steaks, and you got some distillery and brewing equipment because people are going to want to drink, right? People are going to want to drink up in space, so it's like, oh yeah, you could probably make some money bringing up some distillery equipment. And here's the thing: I don't think that information or software. I don't think that will be very important because I think at that point in human development, I think that there's going to be satellites around all sorts of our natural satellites and so forth. And so the internet could be throughout the entire system. Now, I want you to think about that for a second. Think about sitting there on a Mars colony, and you like, I want to watch Netflix. And it's like, well, okay, well, you got to start downloading in the morning before you go to work. It's like, I want to watch this today, this today, this today. And then you go to work and come back, and maybe you can start watching one while the rest are continuing to download. So, I mean, who knows what the connection rates will be? We could be back to those old dial-up times where you got to sit there and wait. It's like, man, this is like the 90s. The 2090s? No, not 1990s. Damn time travelers. So anyway, you got this bunch of New York strip steaks, and you end up at asteroid 58B, and you drop off these New York strip steaks, and you're like, oh, thanks, and then you take a bunch of their ore and you bring it back to Earth. You know, this rare metals that they doesn't exist anywhere else in the system, and you're bringing it back to Earth, and you're selling that for a paycheck. Next thing you know, you get communication from asteroid 58B. And you get this like a FaceTime call from this dude who's just swatting like crazy, and he goes, "There was a couple of maggots we found in the New York strip steaks. It could happen, and now our station is overrun with flies. Think about that. This tiny little enclosed environment on an asteroid, and the people just mining away. But all of a sudden, there's a couple of flies that are introduced to the environment, and then all of a sudden, you get to become the Spider King." You pick up 12 different species of spiders, pack your hold full of it, and go to all these different asteroids, and somehow got some bad meat from this recall that Purdue do steak? I don't know. What is a steak company? Anyway, so some steak company had to do a recall, and ended up a couple of colonies got some of this recalled meat. Ended up with some maggots on some on some space stations. And the next thing you know, some guy's making a fortune by selling spiders to colonies. You probably also have like a bunch of crates of fly swatters, because you can't expect spiders to do all the work when it comes to that many flies. And you would market them though as fly swatter / spatulas, because it could come to a point where the fly swatter doesn't become a fly swatter anymore, and because there's no more flies on the colony. And so instead of calling them fly swatters, you could repurpose it. You could sterilize it. And next thing you know, it's a spatula. I know I'm stealing a joke from Weird Al Yankovic's UHF, but I don't care. I think it's a funny thought. It's like, even in Game of Thrones, they had this guy called the Onion Knight who showed up who showed up one day. He got this. They called him the Onion Knight because he showed up one day and he had a ship full of onions, and the city was starving, and it saved everyone's lives. And so all of a sudden, yeah, we're making him a knight because he saved our lives and stuff like that. And there could be a world like that where some guy makes his fortune running earthworms to Mars, or running spiders to these infested. Imagine that the people are sleeping and they're waking, they're coughing up fly carcasses. It could get bad depending on how long it takes to get from Earth to the asteroid colony. It depends on how long it takes, because the flies, they'll keep reproducing. They'll keep reproducing. They'll find stuff. Flies will eat anything, like human skin cells and shit. They can live almost anywhere, even in space. Talk about some very confused flies, and they're like, genetically, I have no idea where I am. I should kind of expect a little more elbow room. Even the flies getting claustrophobic.